Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, I am going to be joined by Mike Ross. He is the president at the FCADC, which is the Franklin County Area Development Corporation. And we are going to learn, how do you turn an area into a logistics hub? And how do you attract companies to come into that? And how do companies also approach these economic development committees or organizations to figure out site selection and a little bit of that? And Mike has been with them for 40 years as of yesterday. Actually, he just told me as we're recording this. So we're going to hear a little bit about how he's developed this Franklin County area into this logistics hub within the U.S. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. So if you've ever been curious about how Logistics Hub ends up being Logistics Hub, we're going to find out today. So, Mike, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Kevin, and thank you for having me. And
Absolutely.
And we always like to showcase what's going on in our part of the world.
Of course. Happy to get you on. I was told that you are the man when it comes to Franklin County. So definitely happy to get you on and explore this topic with you. But for those that maybe are not familiar, tell us a little bit about, I guess, where is Franklin County, and also what does the FCADC do?
Okay, Franklin County, for your listeners, we are located in south central Pennsylvania. In fact, there's no county more centrally located or literally on the Maryland line. So we are south central Pennsylvania in its truest form. And we border Washington County, Maryland, which is Hagerstown. And as we talked offline a little bit, we're part of a quad state region here of Franklin County, Pennsylvania, Washington County, Maryland, Berkeley County, West Virginia, and Frederick County, Virginia. And so our tagline is we're 4 counties, 4 states, 40 miles. And we're situated right on Interstate 81, which runs right through the middle of our county. And so when you want to understand how you become a logistics hub, have one of the premier interstates in the country come through your county, and that's something. Yeah, it helps a lot. But that has been, in many ways, it's been our lifeline. And given some of the traffic congestion on Interstate 81, there's a lot of traffic related safety issues that need to be dealt with, that we're working on both at the state and federal level. But to answer your question about FCADC, we are a 501c6 nonprofit corporation whose mission, our formal mission, is to formulate, implement, and promote economic development strategies that are going to ideally diversify our economy and create family-sustaining jobs for our residents and elevate the standard of living. And to your point, we've been in business for the last 40 years carrying out that mission. And over that time, we've been fortunate to participate in the only reason I know this specifically is because we gave a presentation yesterday, 1,070 transactional projects over those 40 years that have resulted in about $3.7 billion of capital investment, and it's impacted through jobs created and or retained 62,000 jobs. So it's been we've been in a good place at a good time, and for a lot of folks, very candidly, for a lot of that time, we flew under the radar of a lot of national site locators. We no longer do that, but at one point we did, and the FCADC, as a nonprofit development corporate, we were developing projects and essentially creating a market for that have ultimately started to attract major developers to take a look at our corridor and to site projects here.
Interesting. And tell us a little bit about, like, how does that work, right? So you're trying to attract business into your area, right? As you said, to develop new jobs and sustain jobs as well for residents that are in that area. But are you going after companies? Are you going after developers? Are companies and developers coming to you for like economic assistance for development? How does that relationship work?
It's all of the above, very candidly.
Okay.
So there are times when Typically, and when a company is looking to site a new location, they've identified pretty much where they want to be.
Okay.
So they may look at it. In our case, we are 50 miles south of Harrisburg, and essentially 100 miles north of Harrisonburg, Virginia. So they may look at that 150-mile corridor of I-81 and say, in an initial search, we should be looking in that area. And we and along similar organizations up and down in different counties in Pennsylvania and going south become points of contact for those companies where they'll reach out and say, look, what sites do you have available? And we want to understand the business environment in our part of the world. Interesting, our logistics project started back in 1990. I'll tell you how coincidental and how sometimes it's better to be lucky than to be good. The first major distribution project we did was food line distribution. They were looking to establish a presence in the Northeast, coming out of the Carolinas and moving this direction. And at that time, if 500,000 square feet was a gigantic project, they were looking at 1.3 million square feet. So
oh wow,
and it was
huge back then.
500 jobs and the like. And they had targeted Hagerstown, Maryland for their location. So they knew where they wanted to be in this general area, and but they had signed a confidentiality agreement with some landowners down there, and one of the landowners violated that confidentiality, and they read about their project in the newspaper. So they terminated negotiations, and I got a call saying, do we have any sites on our side of the line?
Okay.
And ultimately Food Line located. But that decision and that project, we were still flying under the radar. But every time you do a project like that, more folks within the food related industry took a look and say, well, wait, if they're going there, what are they seeing that we should be looking at? And so from that we were able to start to get on more radars and so on. But again, specifically to answer your questions, there have been times we reach out to companies when we're aware that we think we have something to offer. We become aware of projects in our case, through either realtors or brokers reaching out to us. We work very closely with our State Department of Community and Economic Development, who has fostered relationships, especially with the broker community and the like. So if they become aware that a company's looking, and depending on what they've identified as the general location, they'll reach out and we'll provide them with what sites that we think can work.
Interesting. Yeah. I was curious about how that kind of works, and you mentioned that was kind of the first really.
That was the first.
Project,
that was the
right?
first big project. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, so that was about 1991, and then we did a project with Ingram Book in Chambersburg. This first project was in Greencastle, then Ingram Book. Did a project in Chambersburg, and again another project got us on the radar. And then a big one for us was Target Corporation built again 1.3 million square feet. And when Target was looking for a site, they had identified the area. They had very specific requirements. So sometimes you'll get these requests saying we need X number of acres and has to have certain infrastructure either on site or in close proximity that it can be brought in at a reasonable cost. In Target's case, it was we need 140 acres, and it's got to be rectangular in shape, and they gave us the dimensions.
Yeah.
So if you have just 140 acres, but it doesn't have that configuration, it's not going to work. And fortunately, we had a location that was able to satisfy Target, and that really started to put us on the radar, because that got a lot of national press within the logistics sector, and again, others starting to look at us.
Yeah, interesting. And I'm curious there because you said that this kind of first big projects were like 90, 91,
Mm-hmm.
and you started FCADC in 86, right?
86,
So,
correct. Yep.
so when you started FCADC, was it in the beginning you knew that you were going to target kind of these logistics companies and warehouse distribution centers, or was Food Lion kind of like the eye opener that this could really become a logistics hotspot?
I think we knew it, but
Okay.
we were trying to get established as FCADC, and we were
Sure.
looking to try to diversify our local economy because we were focused on a couple of major manufacturers and the what for us a major military installation, the Letterkenny Army Depot, and
Okay.
so we were looking to try to diversify and support a lot of small businesses initially. But we knew with 81 uh, coming up through the middle of us that ultimately warehouse and logistics would be a big part of that. The other thing that impacted the warehousing and distribution industry was the deregulation of trucking,
Hmm.
and that had a huge effect. And so we were able to identify locations, and that took some time. So it's one thing to say we have a good location, but do we have sites that we can identify that can be developed? And again,
Sure.
looking at infrastructure needs, transportation, interchange needs along the interstate. How did they need to be upgraded? In the case of Food Line, we had the Cloverleaf, an interchange for them, which took
Mm.
some time and effort to be able to do that. But yeah, so we started to evaluate what opportunities we had so that when companies or developers were interested, we could respond and knew what we could and could not do.
Mm. Interesting. And tell us a little bit about that process there. You mentioned you had to cloverleaf and interchange, right? So, I mean, how does that like work from infrastructure? Yeah.
I mean, I'd have to show you the site at the time,
Hmm.
but so I-81's a north-south interstate, obviously, and
Right.
on the west side, just the way the interchange was configured when it was originally built, the development that was taking place, the site that Food Line had identified was on the west side of I-81. To go northbound, they would have had to get on Interstate 81 to go south into Maryland and essentially turn around and come back,
Mm.
and or go through town, through the borough of Greencastle out to 81 at a really a poorly functioning interchange on the interstate. So we looked at it, and to take them northbound, we were able to work with PennDOT, our State Department of Transportation,
Hmm.
at a design that would allow for a cloverleaf to be built that would send the traffic, the trucks would go northbound out of the out of their center.
Mm.
And by the way, there's where they're located now. And again, we're going back to 1991, 2026. That interchange, which we've now you'll think I'm from Jersey because we just refer to it as exit 3. Okay, but
Oh,
everything
sure.
here is now off an exit. Okay, so
Yeah. Same
exit
here.
3, which is 3 miles north of Maryland, um, has become a major logistics park, and that
Mm.
cloverleaf has allowed it to be so. To go southbound, it's never been a challenge, but all the developments on the west side of the interstate, and that's worked remarkably well. And Food Line was a catalyst for that. Since then, as I mentioned, I mean we've got companies like Thermo Fisher's located there.
Hmm.
Armada Supply is located there. Staples. Our big one is Walmart just opened a new 2.5 million square foot warehouse,
Two
really
and a half million. Wow.
state of the art facility about 18 months ago, and it's been remarkable. Walmart in Franklin County,
Hmm.
we bookend it. We start with exit 1 and we go to exit 24. So we have
Okay.
total 26 miles of Interstate 81, but our interchanges end
Sure.
at exit 24. Walmart has bookend our county. They have about, it's footprint wise, it's probably about 1.5 million square feet at exit 3, but the way the building is laid out, they use about 2.5 million square feet because they've mezzanine the space in a way, and
Right.
the technology in this building is off the charts. They also have 1.5 million square feet at exit 24. So, so Walmart has really found Franklin County to be a great
They're
location.
fans, I guess.
Yeah,
It sounds like they're
they
fans.
are
Yeah.
big fans. So we got Walmart and Target both, so they compete on on the retail level, and they compete for employees and the like
Oh
here.
yeah.
So, but
Oh wow.
anyway,
Yeah.
but that interchange has become, because we were able to cloverleaf it. It really was a driving force in allowing for the rest for that park to be developed, and it's known
Yeah.
as the Antrim Commons Business Park.
Interesting. So I'm curious, like from an infrastructure
Hmm.
perspective, right? Sounds like Food Line was kind of the catalyst for
Right.
that interchange to be redesigned, right? But do you, as the kind of development company or organization that's helping the county and helping to attract business, do you identify areas ahead of time potentially where okay we could improve infrastructure here which would then allow us to have more sites here or make it more attractive for companies to come in and how does that kind of work or is it more the company
We're
asking?
going through that process right now,
Okay.
in that we have been working with PennDOT literally for the last 20 plus years
Mm,
for a new interchange on 81,
okay.
and now and that project is coming to fruition this year, where we have a fully funded. And it takes a long time to do transportation projects with the
Yeah.
Federal Highway Administration and the State Department of Transportation alike. But we've secured funding to build a new interchange at what will be exit 12, and it's literally right beside the Target Distribution Center on 81. And but when that project is completed, it will open up about another. Probably 250 to 300 acres of property that will be suited for warehouse and distribution sites. And we know that we have one major project that's already committed to that. We'll probably do a little over 1 million square feet, but there'll be opportunities for others. But all the infrastructure has been put in: the water, the sewer, the electric, the gas. It's all there at this
Mm,
point, and that's the hardest thing. It's not only is it identifying locations, and now, and fortunately for us, our municipalities who have jurisdictional oversight of the sites have their zoning has really directed all warehouse and transportation projects to our interchanges so that
mm.
they have the least impact traffic wise on our core downtowns.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Interesting to hear how that process happens. And like you said, 20 years in the
Oh,
works, right,
right.
to start to get that stuff together. And it's very interesting because I think, as just the average observer, you just kind of see the warehouse go up, right? And it seems
Right.
like it goes up pretty quickly these days. They put the walls up that are like
Hmm.
pre-poured and everything, and you're like, oh well, seems quick to stand it up. But obviously, there's a ton of stuff going on behind the scenes,
The
right?
building
Yeah,
construction is the easiest part of it.
yeah, yeah.
It's getting to the point where a contractor can put a shovel in the ground,
Mm,
but you have to work to make sure that the interchange and do the traffic impact studies, the environmental impact studies, the working with the state historical office of preservation. You have to make sure that whatever you're doing, you're not going to affect any historic artifacts or the like, or how you're going to mitigate
mm,
all of that. So it's years in the making, and again, we one of the along those lines, one of the issues we have here, we'd like to see I-81 expanded from a 4-lane interstate to a 6-lane interstate.
yeah.
which it is in parts. If you go through the 26 miles of West Virginia, it's all 3-lane, each direction. But we like to see, and in Pennsylvania, in parts it's 3 lanes, but down here, where we have seen a lot of growth, we'd like to see it expanded because it becomes very congested and very dangerous. And we're now talking on September the 4th in 2026. If we were to get funding today to widen the interchange, we're probably looking at construction starting late 2030s, maybe 2040, until you would get until you do the design and you have to look at all the bridges. You have to look. It's a process. It's very expensive, very time consuming.
Wow.
Now, having said that, again, trying to and when you work with the Federal Highway Administration, they have limited, the resources, and everybody wants them. We're trying to make the case with our federal legislators, in particular, that if you look at our area in south central Pennsylvania of I-81 between Chambersburg and Franklin County, and there's an installation in Lebanon County known as Fort Indiantown Gap, which is a major training reserve for the National Guard. It's major facility. But in between that, we have 3 other military Army installations, Army and Navy installations. So we have 5 installations in a 60-mile stretch of Interstate 81, and we're trying to make the case that it should be a national defense corridor, and I-81 becoming critical to moving, and we're seeing the necessity of that right as we're speaking, with everything taking place in Iran, and Letterkenny recalibrates Patriot missile systems and THAAD missile systems and ships missiles and the like. So making sure that interstate is open and moving is essential. And so we'd like to try to tap into the biggest budget that any organization has on earth. To get funding for that.
Absolutely, yeah. And as someone who has driven down I-81 to visit family in North Carolina many, many times, I definitely vote for widening I-81.
Yes. Well, so you've driven, if you've done it, you've driven through Franklin County many times.
Yeah. We would go out to Carlisle and then go down from there.
We are 30 miles south of Carlisle.
Yeah.
So when you crossed into Maryland, you were crossing across state line, and that's us.
Okay. So now tell us about a little bit in the last 40 years, like, because you mentioned, Food Lion in 90, right, was going to do 500,000 square feet, right, which was big at the time. But you just mentioned, like, Walmart just did 2.5 million. So tell us how, like, the evolution over the last 40 years.
It's been remarkable. So it started out when we get these requests. We have XYZ company looking to build 500,000 square feet, and then it became, well, now they're looking at 750, and it's like, and it's hard for folks who have not been in the warehouses themselves, or followed construction to understand how big 500,000 square feet is. And then you say, okay, now we're going to 50% more. So we're going to go to 750,000 square feet.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon it's a million square feet. And now the standard seems to be we're looking 1 million square feet or up. And it's been absolutely, so all the projects now are in that range, or seem to be. Anything under 1 million square feet now is considered more a smaller project. And it's been remarkable. So one of the premier developers in Franklin County is, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Matrix Development Corporation.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Well, they out of Jersey, they have a major presence in Franklin County. They have developed a logistics park at Exit 24, where we have a Walmart, Lowe's, an Amazon, Bad Boy Mowers, and there's and they're building 3 buildings right now as we speak. Tello Tires is going to be in one of them. but Matrix has been a major developer at Exit 24 and at Exit 3. And so we like those guys, and what they've done has been high quality, but their buildings are where they're supposed to be, and what we like about them as developers is they do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, that's a good thing. Definitely.
Yeah, well, and that's important, and in today's world, for the developers of warehouse and logistics, I mean, you're going to start out meeting with a lot of skepticism from the municipal officials who are, again, hearing from their constituents about the traffic congestion, and there's always within the industry been a concern about the quality of jobs that get created within that sector, and I think again I think there's been an evolution in skill sets there, and a lot of the jobs now. I mean, a lot of these centers are incredibly sophisticated from a technology standpoint.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of software engineers being hired to set these things up and operate them. You're still going to have certain packaging, handling and packaging kinds of positions. But I was contacted recently by Amazon, and for our part of the world, I mean, what they're saying is, we're looking to hire. And they're looking at a project. If they come here, we'll hire 1,000 people. Which again, I'll come back to that in a second. And we start at $23.89 an hour, and and full benefits first day, and they go through the whole benefit package. Well, there was a time when everybody felt like the warehouse and distribution projects they're gonna come in. They're going to build these big buildings. They're going to hire people, but they're all going to be paid minimum wage. And is that really going to help our community? That's no longer the case. They're especially at the entry level. Their entry level positions compete very strongly with both healthcare and manufacturing. And so that's so it's elevated wages for everybody. But those jobs now are at very competitive rates.
Yeah, and it's a competitive environment too. I imagine.
Absolutely.
As you said earlier, you got Target and Walmart like competing for the same people, and obviously, in a 1 million+ square foot building, I mean, you're gonna have hundreds, sometimes maybe thousands of employees in there, right? So, lots of opportunity there from an employment perspective. So I'm curious, from the county perspective and the overall, I guess, living perspective, because where I'm at in New Jersey here, Burlington County has also been seen like a boom in development of distribution centers and warehouses in the last few years as well. A lot of farmland turning into now logistics parks and warehouses, and obviously with that comes a little bit of tension from the community that's like, oh, it's too close, there's more trucks, there's more traffic, things like that. So how do you, in your position, how do you kind of balance all of that with the community and make sure that like you're being thoughtful around the planning of that and find the kind of the happy medium or the balance there?
Franklin County is predominantly known as an agricultural county, and so we've had the concern about, well, you're taking up all the farmland. Our municipalities have done an outstanding job of zoning to say, when they built 81, we became what we are. Okay, and what they've done though, they've zoned in a way to make sure that the warehouse and distribution is going to be at the interchanges. We're not going to eat up additional farmland to build them. I mean, not that there weren't farms at those interchanges, but those were zoned specifically, knowing. I mean, the owners and the like knew that they could be developed, and candidly, a lot of that ownership, they figured out, that it snows in Franklin County, so if we can sell this land, we can move to Florida and live happily ever after. Okay, so there's been that sense too, but from our standpoint, at FCADC, we have partnered with the county and with our conservation district in support of ag preservation in Franklin County now, the county has partnered with farmers and the like, and we have more than 20,000 acres that are preserved in perpetuity for farm. And that grows every year. And the other part of it is we want to make sure that we are supporting every industry sector in terms of availing economic development resources. The perception is that all our population sees, because you're driving up and down the interstate and you see it's dotted with these mega warehouses, and the perception is that's all that's going on. The good news is, and my remarks are, that's the good news, because you're seeing those projects, but what you don't see are the manufacturers that are off of 81, the healthcare systems that are off of it, that are not visible. So those warehouses, we want them to be visible from 81, because that's where they're supposed to be. And again, and we want to make sure that we have the supporting infrastructure to make sure that we can handle what's taking place there. But there is going to be the pushback that we see more than, well, as much as the conversation about taking up farmland, is that the interstates become congested. As you said, you drove down to the Carolinas.
Yeah.
The minute you get on Interstate 81, I would argue the minute you get on Interstate 78 in the Lehigh Valley and start down, it's like, wow, where'd all these trucks come from?
Yeah.
Because if you get on Route 70 or 68 or 64 or whatever it is that are going, especially those that are going east-west, it's like I don't see, you see some trucks, but not like you do on 81. But we tell everybody, where we are in Franklin County, we are within a 24-hour drive of 50% of the North American population. And in fact, we think it's closer to probably a 15 to 18-hour drive to 50% of the North American population. And because of that, the two major interstates that are carrying cargo are I-95 and I-81. And 95 effectively has been built out for all intents and purposes, especially from D.C. north. And anybody who's looking to distribute products, any company from Charlotte to Toronto, has looked at the 81 corridor as a location, whether it's in, and again, it starts in Tennessee and runs right up to New York, but I would argue it's more intense on 81 up to, as I said, where it splits with 78 and then heads down to and it's interesting how our populations have evolved, because I look now at the Lehigh Valley, Allentown, Easton, Bethlehem, those areas, almost suburbs of New York.
Yeah.
And for us, we're becoming more connected to Washington and the Beltway going south and southeast. But again, we're in a good place, and we've embraced the warehouse and distribution projects. To that point, and again, when you talk to me, I ramble all over the place, so I apologize for that. So, but I just had a conversation with one of our county commissioners recently, and he ran initially on the premise that he was opposed to additional warehousing projects. We have enough and the like. And he came to me and he said, when I ran, I was opposed to these, but now I see what the impact is on our revenues for our county budget. He said we could probably use a couple more. There's the benefit of the taxes that the county receives, our school districts receive, and to the credit of the tenants in these buildings, and we like, as much as we like Matrix and Walmart owns their facility in Greencastle, and Target owns their facility, and that gets them more invested in the community, and we really appreciate all of that. But to their credit, they are really working more closely in establishing relationships with our school districts on job training and support of our educational programs. They partner with some of our nonprofits in a way. that is very rewarding. And so the fact that they're investing back into the communities again it makes for a better relationship and better acceptance of what they're doing.
Mm. Yeah, very interesting to hear that and hear how kind of this all has come together over the last 40 years and how it continues to come together and the planning that goes into it and the thoughts around it as well. So fascinating to kind of hear, I guess, how do you create a logistics hub in the first place? So really appreciate you coming on the show, Mike, and joining us and kind of enlightening us a little bit and me definitely personally. It's very, very fascinating to learn about this. So if people are maybe interested in checking out Franklin County or getting involved with FCADC, what's the best way
The
to do that?
easiest way is to go to our website, which is fcadc.com, or, I mean, we are available by phone, 717-263-8282, or if you want to reach me directly, it's Mike at fcadc.com. But we
All
always
right.
appreciate the interest, and again, I thank you for your interest in wanting to learn more about us.
Sure.
And the next time headed to the Carolinas, leave early and you can stop and see us.
Absolutely. We'll hop on 81 and take a visit down to Mike and Franklin County there. So really appreciate you coming on, and we'll certainly put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as
Great.
well as in the show notes here. So Mike, thank you once again for your time on the show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.